There is a moment in every man's life that no one prepares him for. It's not the fight. It's not the breakup. It's the silence. The subtle shift in tone. The warmth that feels different. The sense that something is changing, even before you can name it. Most men panic in this moment. They react. They chase. They try to hold on tighter, and lose themselves in the process. But some men choose a different path. They don't deny the pain. They don't pretend not to care. They simply refuse to let emotion control their actions. This is where stoicism in love begins. Not when things are perfect, but when uncertainty enters the room. In this video, we're not going to talk about how to keep someone from leaving. We're going to talk about something far more important. How a stoic man remains calm, grounded, and unbroken when love begins to change. Because love may shift. But the man who understands himself never has to. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where lessons about love will help you better understand this complex emotion. In today's video, we will learn together about 7 ways Stoic men stay calm when love changes. These are things that can change the way you perceive love in life. Be prepared because the secrets and insights you are about to discover may make you look back at yourself and the relationships around you. Before starting, find a quiet space, put on your headphones and relax. Let your mind completely immerse in these shares and enjoy every wonderful moment. Are you ready to discover new things about love? Let's start this journey with us right now. Number 1. He does not react immediately to emotion. There was a time in my life when I believed strength meant responding quickly. When love felt uncertain, I spoke faster. When silence appeared, I filled it with words. When fear rose, I tried to control the outcome. It took me years to understand a simple truth. The moment you react emotionally, you surrender your power. A stoic man does not suppress emotion. He allows it to exist, but he does not let it command him. When love begins to change, the first instinct is panic. You notice the shorter replies. The warmth fades. The effort becomes uneven. And the mind starts racing. What did I do wrong? Is she losing interest? Should I say something now? This is the moment where most men fail, not because they care too much, but because they react too fast. A man who has lived long enough understands this. You allow the emotional wave to rise without immediately acting on it. Why? Because emotional reactions are temporary, but consequences are permanent. I have seen men destroy relationships, and themselves, simply because they spoke from fear rather than clarity. Accusations disguised as honesty. Desperation disguised as affection. Control disguised as concern. A stoic man understands something most never do. Your reaction teaches the other person how to treat you. If you panic when love shifts, you signal dependence. If you chase when distance appears, you confirm imbalance. If you beg for reassurance, you give away your center. Calm is not indifference. Calm is self-respect. When love changes, the stoic man does not immediately confront, explain, or demand. He studies the situation, including himself. He asks, is this emotion asking me to act, or to understand? Is my fear coming from reality, or from my attachment? Would my future self respect the action I am about to take? Most of the time, the answer is clear once the emotion settles. Stoicism teaches that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies freedom. I have lived long enough to know that the man who can pause owns the room, even when the room is a relationship slowly changing. When a woman senses that you are not ruled by emotional turbulence, something subtle happens. She may still leave. She may still change. But she cannot shake your inner ground. And that is power. Not dominance. Not manipulation, but sovereignty over yourself. A Stoic man does not rush to fix what may not be broken, nor to save what may not be meant to stay. He understands that love reveals its truth over time, not through interrogation. By not reacting immediately, you give reality the space to speak. And sometimes, reality says, "This is temporary." Sometimes it says, "This is the end." But either way, you meet it standing, not collapsing. I once believed that reacting quickly proved how much I cared. Now I know better. The deepest care is shown through self-control. Because a man who can master his reactions will never be a prisoner of another person's changing heart. And that is where true calm begins. Number 2. He understands what is, and is not, under his control. One of the hardest lessons I ever learned in love was this. You can give everything right, and still lose someone. When I was younger, I believed effort guaranteed outcome. If I loved harder, communicated better, sacrificed more, things would stay the same. That belief cost me years of unnecessary suffering. A Stoic man learns early, or painfully, that control is limited. And peace begins the moment he accepts that limitation. When love changes, the instinct is to regain control. To ask questions. To negotiate feelings. To convince someone to return to who they once were. But the truth is simple and brutal. You do not control another person's emotions, desires, or choices. You never did. A man who fights this truth exhausts himself. A man who accepts it becomes unshakable. Stoicism teaches a clear boundary between what belongs to you and what does not. Your thoughts, yours. Your actions, yours. Your values, yours. Your response, yours. Her feelings. Her attraction. Her decision to stay or leave. Not yours. I have watched men lose their dignity trying to manage what was never under their authority. They monitored messages. They demanded reassurance. They tried to reason their way back into affection. And the more they tried to control the uncontrollable, the less respect they received. A Stoic man understands something crucial. The moment you try to control someone else's heart, you reveal that you have lost control of your own. When love shifts, he does not chase certainty from another person. He returns to certainty within himself. This does not mean emotional coldness. It means emotional clarity. He says to himself, I cannot control her feelings, but I can control my character. I cannot force her presence, but I can choose my posture. I cannot prevent loss, but I can prevent self-betrayal. That shift changes everything. Instead of obsessing over signals, he focuses on standards. Instead of reacting to moods, he acts from principle. Instead of shrinking to keep someone, he stands fully as himself. And here is the paradox most men never see. The less you try to control love, the more grounded you become, whether love stays or leaves. There were moments in my life when acceptance felt like weakness. Letting go felt like surrender. But I was wrong. Acceptance is not surrender, it is alignment with reality. Reality does not negotiate. Reality does not care how much you want things to be different. A Stoic man does not waste energy fighting what is. He invests it in who he chooses to be within what is. If love remains, it does so freely. If love ends, it ends without taking his identity with it. And that is strength. Because a man who knows the limits of his control cannot be manipulated by hope or fear. He does not beg. He does not threaten. He does not collapse. He adjusts. He understands that losing control over outcomes is the price of living honestly. And he pays that price willingly. I have learned that peace is not found in securing love. It is found in knowing that whatever happens, you will not abandon yourself. When love changes, the Stoic man does not ask, "How do I make this stay?" He asks, "How do I remain intact, regardless of the outcome?" And once a man reaches that point, no change in love can truly destabilize him. Because he has placed his peace where it belongs. Inside the only thing he truly controls, himself. Love is not only about happy moments, but also about challenges that help us realize our inner strength. It is through difficulties that we learn patience, tolerance, and how to love without losing ourselves. This is also the reason why I share stories here, so that you can find calmness and wisdom in your journey of love. If you feel these words touch you, please take a second to click like to spread this message. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe with the notification bell, to always be the first to receive new shares. Don't forget to leave a comment below, share your feelings or a lesson you learned after listening to this story. Each line you share is a way for us to connect and accompany each other. Now, get ready, because the next part will bring you even deeper insights. Number 3. He does not tie his worth to being loved. One of the most dangerous mistakes a man can make in love is subtle. It doesn't look like weakness. It doesn't sound like desperation. It hides behind loyalty, devotion, and commitment. The mistake is this. He begins to measure his worth by how much he is loved. I have been that man. When she was warm, I felt valuable. When she pulled away, I felt diminished. When affection faded, I questioned myself, not the situation. That is not love. That is dependency wearing the mask of devotion. A Stoic man learns, often the hard way, that his value must never be outsourced. The moment your self-worth depends on someone else's feelings, you give them power over your inner life. And no human being can carry that responsibility without eventually abusing it, even unintentionally. When love changes, men who tie their worth to being loved experience more than heartbreak. They experience identity collapse. They ask, "Why wasn't I enough? What does he have that I don't? If she doesn't choose me, who am I?" These are not questions of love. They are questions of self-erasure. A Stoic man does not ask them. Not because he feels nothing. But because he understands something deeper. Love is an experience, not a verdict on your value. You can be loyal and still be left. You can be honest and still be replaced. You can love deeply and still not be chosen. None of this diminishes who you are. It only reveals what was never guaranteed. I learned that the most painful breakups were not about losing the woman. They were about losing the version of myself that existed only through her approval. That version had to die. A Stoic man builds his worth on things that cannot be withdrawn overnight. His principles. His discipline. His integrity. His capacity to stand alone. These things remain even when love does not. When a man knows his worth internally, love becomes a choice. Not a necessity. He desires connection, but he does not require it to feel whole. This changes how he moves. He does not over-explain. He does not perform for affection. He does not negotiate his boundaries to be liked. And paradoxically, this self-contained strength is often what creates genuine attraction in the first place. But that is not the goal. The goal is sovereignty. A Stoic man understands that love is best experienced from fullness, not from hunger. When love changes, he does not scramble to prove his worth. He already knows it. He does not chase validation. He observes compatibility. He does not internalize rejection as failure. He interprets it as redirection. I remember the moment this lesson finally settled in me. I was alone. No reassurance. No messages. No one choosing me. And yet, I felt calm. Not numb. Not bitter. Just grounded. That was the moment I realized. If I can respect myself in solitude, I will never beg for love again. A Stoic man does not fear being unloved. He fears becoming someone who betrays himself to be loved. That is a much deeper loss. When love remains, he receives it with gratitude. When it leaves, he releases it without self-contempt. Because his worth was never on the line. And that is the quiet power of a man who has learned to love, without disappearing inside it. Number 4. He accepts the truth instead of living on false hope. There is a quiet cruelty in false hope. It does not scream. It whispers. It tells you to wait a little longer. To give it more time. To believe that things will return to how they once were, if you just endure enough pain. I lived in that space longer than I should have. I told myself I was being patient. In reality, I was avoiding the truth. A Stoic man learns that hope, when detached from reality, becomes a form of self-deception. When love changes, the most tempting escape is hope. Hope that the distance is temporary. Hope that silence means confusion, not indifference. Hope that effort will resurrect what no longer wants to live. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Not all love is meant to be saved. And refusing to accept that truth does not make you loyal. It makes you blind. A Stoic man does not rush to conclusions, but he does not deny patterns. He observes behavior, not promises. Consistency, not nostalgia. Energy, not words. He understands that the truth of a relationship is revealed in actions. Especially when things become difficult. When a woman's effort fades, he does not cling to memories as evidence of the present. When communication dries up, he does not interpret silence as mystery. When respect erodes, he does not excuse it as temporary confusion. He does not live in yesterday. Acceptance, for a Stoic man, is not passive resignation. It is active clarity. It means saying, "This is what is happening, not what I wish were happening." And that clarity, while painful, is liberating. False hope keeps you suspended. Truth allows you to move. I have learned that the most destructive relationships are not the dramatic ones, but the ambiguous ones. Where nothing is clearly over. But nothing is truly alive. A Stoic man refuses to rot in emotional limbo. He understands that dragging out uncertainty erodes dignity faster than a clean ending. When love changes, he asks himself one hard question. If nothing improves from this moment forward, would I still stay? If the answer is no, then hope is no longer love. It is fear wearing the mask of optimism. A Stoic man chooses truth over comfort. He does not beg reality to soften itself for him. He meets it as it is. This does not mean he becomes cold or dismissive. It means he becomes honest. He acknowledges loss before loss destroys him. He grieves consciously, not unconsciously. He lets go before resentment takes root. And this is something most men never understand. Accepting the end does not mean the love was meaningless. It means the chapter is complete. There is strength in knowing when something has given you all it can. There is wisdom in walking away without needing closure from another person. I once believed that hope kept love alive. Now I know better. Truth keeps the man alive. When love remains, acceptance deepens it. When love ends, acceptance preserves your self-respect. A Stoic man does not cling to what no longer chooses him. He honors what was, and releases what is no longer real. Because he understands that living in truth, even painful truth, is always better than slowly disappearing inside a beautiful lie. Number 5. He returns to personal discipline when love becomes unstable. When love begins to fall apart, most men fall apart with it. Their sleep breaks. Their routines dissolve. Their focus disappears. They stop training. They neglect their work. They scroll endlessly, replaying conversations that no longer matter. I know this state well. And I also know the way out. A Stoic man understands something critical. When emotions become chaotic, discipline must become non-negotiable. Discipline is not punishment. It is structure, and structure creates stability when feelings cannot. When love changes, the Stoic man does not numb himself. He does not escape into distractions. He does not wait for motivation to return. He moves anyway. He wakes up at the same time. He trains his body, even when his heart feels heavy. He completes his work, even when his mind resists. Not because it feels good, but because it keeps him intact. I learned that discipline is the last line of defense against emotional collapse. When a man abandons his habits during heartbreak, he sends himself a dangerous message. My life depends on this relationship. A Stoic man refuses to send that message. He uses routine to remind himself. I existed before this love, and I will exist after it. Discipline grounds the nervous system. It channels restless energy into something constructive. It prevents the mind from spiraling endlessly into what if. And more importantly, it restores self-respect. There is something deeply stabilizing about keeping promises to yourself when someone else may be breaking theirs. A Stoic man does not chase emotional relief. He builds emotional resilience. He understands that feelings follow action, not the other way around. Waiting until you feel better is how you stay stuck. Acting with discipline is how you regain momentum. This is not about becoming rigid or heartless. It is about becoming reliable, to yourself. When love becomes unstable, the Stoic man strengthens his foundation. Physical discipline to anchor the body. Mental discipline to quiet the mind. Moral discipline to prevent self-betrayal. He knows that emotional storms pass faster when the structure beneath you is solid. I remember nights when my chest felt heavy and sleep refused to come. Training the next morning felt pointless. But I went anyway. And each time I showed up, something shifted. Not the relationship. Me. Discipline reminded me that I still had agency. That my life was not on pause just because love was uncertain. This is the quiet power most men overlook. A disciplined man is never truly helpless. Even when love leaves, his rhythm remains. Even when affection fades, his standards do not. And this does something important. It prevents bitterness. Men who abandon themselves during heartbreak often return hardened and resentful. Men who maintain discipline return sharpened, not broken. A Stoic man does not rebuild himself after loss. He maintains himself through it. When love stabilizes again, discipline makes him better within it. When love ends, discipline ensures he does not collapse. That is why he returns to it instinctively. Not to escape pain, but to transform it. Because he understands that the man who can govern his daily actions will eventually govern his emotions. And once that happens, no instability in love can truly derail him. At this point, you may have seen yourself in the stories above, sometimes weak, sometimes strong, and sometimes not knowing what to do in love. But it is those moments that make us real and worthy of respect. If you feel the same, please click like to let me know you are here, accompanying me. And if you haven't clicked subscribe yet, don't hesitate, because every day I will share more stories and new lessons, to help you have a calmer view of love. Now, let's move on to the final part, where we will touch on deeper things. Number 6. He refuses to blame or indulge in self-pity. There are two easy paths when love breaks apart. Blame. Or self-pity. Both feel justified. Both feel human. And both are traps. I have walked both paths, and neither led anywhere worth staying. A Stoic man understands that blame and self-pity are different faces of the same weakness. Blame gives you the illusion of superiority. Self-pity gives you the illusion of innocence. Neither gives you strength. When love changes, it is tempting to point outward. She changed. She wasn't honest. She gave up too easily. Sometimes these things are true. But truth alone does not make blame useful. Blame keeps your attention locked on another person. And as long as your focus remains there, you remain powerless. On the other hand, self-pity turns inward. Why does this always happen to me? Why am I never enough? This is just as destructive. Self-pity feels like humility, but it is actually ego turned against itself. It centers your suffering and makes pain your identity. A Stoic man refuses both. Not because he denies pain, but because he refuses to let pain define him. He asks different questions. Not, who is at fault? But, what is my responsibility now? This shift is subtle, but it is everything. Responsibility restores agency. Blame and self-pity remove it. I learned that the moment I stopped needing someone to be wrong for me to move forward, my healing accelerated. A Stoic man understands that most relationships do not end because one person is evil. They end because alignment fades. And alignment fading does not require a villain. When love changes, he allows himself to feel disappointment. But he does not rehearse it endlessly. He grieves once, consciously. Not repeatedly, unconsciously. He does not retell the story to collect sympathy. He does not build a narrative where he is the victim and the other person is the enemy. Why? Because those stories become cages. Men who cling to blame remain emotionally tied to the past. Men who indulge in self-pity remain emotionally small. A Stoic man chooses neither. He accepts what happened without exaggeration or distortion. He acknowledges mistakes without self-loathing. He releases resentment without pretending it never existed. This is not emotional suppression. It is emotional maturity. He understands that resentment is a debt he pays for someone else's behavior. And he refuses to keep paying it. And here is something rarely said. Letting go of blame does not mean approving what hurt you. It means refusing to let it continue hurting you. When love ends, the Stoic man does not ask, how do I make them regret losing me? He asks, how do I ensure I don't carry this forward into the next chapter? That is strength. Because bitterness distorts perception. And a distorted man cannot build anything clean. I have seen men turn one heartbreak into a lifetime of guardedness. Not because love destroyed them, but because they refuse to release their narrative of injustice. A Stoic man chooses clarity over comfort. He knows that pain processed honestly becomes wisdom. Pain indulged becomes identity. And he refuses to be known, even to himself, as a man defined by what went wrong. When love changes, he takes the lesson and leaves the bitterness behind. Because the goal was never to win the breakup. The goal was to remain a man worth becoming. Number 7. He sees change as a test of inner strength, not a tragedy. At some point in a man's life, he realizes something uncomfortable. Change is not the enemy. Attachment is. When love changes, most men experience it as a tragedy. A collapse. A personal failure. I used to see it that way too. Every shift felt like loss. Every ending felt like something had been taken from me. But with time, and pain, came clarity. A Stoic man understands that change is not a punishment. It is a test. Not of how much you can hold on, but of how well you can remain yourself when things no longer feel secure. Love changing does not mean you were wrong to love. It means the conditions have changed. And conditions always change. The Stoic man does not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "Who am I becoming through this?" This reframes everything. Instead of resisting reality, he studies his response to it. Instead of collapsing under uncertainty, he measures his composure. He understands that every emotional disruption reveals the quality of your inner foundation. When love changes, it exposes where you depend too much, where you lack boundaries, where your identity is too entangled. And exposure is not cruelty. It is opportunity. A Stoic man does not romanticize suffering. But he does not waste it either. He knows that pain either refines you or deforms you. The difference lies in awareness. I have seen men emerge from heartbreak more grounded, more disciplined, more self-directed. And I have seen others become bitter, closed, and suspicious of life itself. The event was the same. The interpretation was not. A Stoic man chooses interpretation carefully. He understands that nothing tests emotional sovereignty like love withdrawing its certainty. Anyone can be calm when things are stable. Few can remain composed when meaning starts to shift. And that is precisely why this moment matters. When love changes, the Stoic man does not rush to fill the void. He allows the discomfort to teach him. He asks, "What is this revealing about me? Where am I being invited to grow? What strength is this demanding that I develop?" He knows that avoiding the lesson only guarantees repetition. And here is the quiet truth that only experience teaches. A man who survives emotional change without losing himself becomes dangerous, in the best way. Not dangerous to others. Dangerous to illusion. He no longer needs permanence to feel secure. He no longer confuses intensity with meaning. He no longer fears loss as annihilation. Because he has faced it, and remains standing. Love may stay. Love may leave. But either way, the Stoic man emerges stronger. Not because he hardened his heart. But because he deepened his roots. This is the final lesson. The goal was never to preserve love at all costs. The goal was to preserve character. And once a man understands that, no change in love can truly destroy him. It can only reveal him. Conclusion. Love will change. It always does. Sometimes it deepens. Sometimes it fades. Sometimes it ends without warning or explanation. A Stoic man does not deny this reality. He prepares himself for it. Through these 7 principles, one truth becomes clear. Calm is not something you receive from love, it is something you build within yourself. When emotions rise, he does not react blindly. When control slips away, he does not panic. When affection fades, he does not lose his sense of worth. When hope becomes illusion, he chooses truth. When instability appears, he returns to discipline. When pain arrives, he refuses blame and self-pity. And when change finally comes, he sees it not as a tragedy, but as a test of character. This is not emotional coldness. This is emotional mastery. The Stoic man does not need love to remain constant in order to remain whole. He loves deeply, but he stands independently. And because of that, whether love stays or leaves, he does not collapse, chase, or harden. He adapts. He understands that relationships are chapters, not identities. That people are free to change, and so is he. That his responsibility is not to control outcomes, but to uphold his principles through every outcome. This is the quiet strength most men never develop. Not dominance. Not emotional suppression. But self-command. In the end, love is not what defines a man. How he carries himself when love changes, that is. And the man who learns to remain calm in uncertainty will never truly be lost again, because he has placed his peace where it belongs, within himself. Thank you for watching the whole video. I hope that today's sharing about love will bring you new perspectives and help you gain valuable lessons. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your loved ones. I am very grateful for your companionship, and hope that each video will help you get closer to a happy and lasting love. See you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful and inspired day.